be your geoscope for the upcoming new moon in Cancer, which happens on the 20th of July. So this is our second new moon in Cancer. The first one was the solstice solar eclipse, which started a new 6-month cycle for collectives. So in many ways, this is a kind of a follow-up. The first eclipse happened in the early degrees of Cancer, so near the solstice point, and this one will happen towards the end of Cancer at around about 28 degrees. So this is almost a kind of a bookend. And for you, Gemini, this is perfect. You know, there's sort of like twinning energy here, a lot of dual energy, so you should feel right at home. So some good things to say. Your sign Venus is now direct in your sign of Jupiter, so you're probably enjoying you know, all that extra kind of feel-good energy. And then within a week of this new moon, so during the waxing lunation cycle, you will be also we'll be moving into that Lionsgate portal energy. So that will start from around about the 26th or 27th of July, and then we'll peak at around about the 8th of August. So that's something to look forward to. That's about sovereignty. It's about coming into your power. It's also about balancing light and dark, which obviously is a big theme at any solstice or equinox point. And then on the 27th or 28th or so, which I think it's 27th, we've got we've got Venus in Gemini making a square to Neptune. That's just something to be a little bit aware of. Watch out for any tendencies to sort of put on rose-tinted specs, particularly when it comes to romantic relationships. But on the same day, we've also got a wonderful Jupiter-Neptune sextile. So that's very expansive energy. It's very hopeful. It's very magical. So that's something to look forward to. But let's see what the cards have to say, what they want to highlight for you at this particular new moon. This is, of course, a new lunar cycle starting. So it's a new month-long cycle with a particular emphasis on starting new things. So fresh starts when it comes to the new moon energy. So while I'm shuffling, I thought I should just mention that I have actually finished doing an ebook. I've created an ebook on geomancy and the type of readings that I do here on YouTube. So if it's something that you are interested or keen in doing for yourself at home, I've put in everything that you need to know about geomancy, including a breakdown of all the 16 geomantic figures, what they mean, their sort of symbolic associations, etc. So if that's something that you are interested in, then check out the description in the link in the description box, or go to my website, astrologysphere.com, and you'll see the geomancy page on the first page. So there you go. I've done my little sales spiel as a Gemini. I'm sure you can appreciate that. But let's see what the elementals want to tell you about this upcoming lunar cycle. Right, so your first geomantic figure out is Counter Draconis. So a little bit of a surprise. It does seem as though there's some unfinished business for you on some level. Now, this may have something to do with that lunar eclipse in Capricorn. It was very intense. That's because of the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. So it may be that there's still some leftover residue from that particular waning moon cycle that you are still kind of dealing with. But I think we'll find out more when we get further into the reading. Interesting. So now this is the twin actually so we've got the tail of the dragon and the head of the dragon. So this is about new start. So this is new moon energy. It is also solar eclipse energy. So this is where you are kind of wanting new beginnings, is when it comes to home, family, and roots. So on some level, there is a desire to kind of move forward. It's just that it may be taking a little bit longer than you initially hoped for, and that's that happens. We don't always have everything happening neatly between sort of X and Y time period. But just know that a new cycle is coming in for you when it comes to family and home. You could be moving. You could be, say, upsizing. Relocating. There may be some new setup when it comes to your current domestic situation. Maybe you're moving in with someone's moving in with you. Maybe there's been a sort of a reshuffle. Maybe you've got out the paintbrush and you've been redecorating at home. But there's definitely a need here for a fresh start when it comes to home and family. Interesting. So when it comes to committed relationships, so this is one-to-one significant encounters or relationships with others. There seems to be an ending of some kind happening. We've got cars here, which is, it can be restriction or cutting back. So it's very often to do with a feeling of either imprisonment or restriction, inhibition. So it could sometimes be shyness, or that we feel a little bit blocked when it comes to a significant relationship. Or it can simply be that one particular relationship is becoming a bit of a burden, because Saturn can sometimes be that sort of heavy energy of feeling chained to something, so it can be sort of, that devil kind of energy that we've got in the tarot cards, where there's this bondage to someone or a particular situation or dynamic that may not necessarily be very healthy for us, or just makes us feel quite heavy. Or it could be that you are walking away from a long-term relationships. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a marriage partnership. It could be a financial arrangement or a business partnership. So this could be what's on your mind when you've got this a cycle ending kind of happening, is that you are wanting to end some kind of long-term association. Gosh, so Gemini, you seem to be in a bit of a kind of a bit of a low ebb, shall we say, when it comes to your emotional biorhythms. So Tristia is Saturn now in the sign of Aquarius. So this is air energy, but it's fixed air energy. And Tristia is very often about, it's tears, literally. So this is about sort of crying over spilled milk. And the 10th house has to do with your career. So on some level, you are feeling either disappointed or having to deal with the aftermath of some change when it comes to your career direction, maybe also loss of reputation, because this 10th house is the kind of public sphere. So maybe there's been some kind of if you are getting divorced, for example, perhaps this person's been bad-mouthing you, or it could be a partnership in business and it's tarnished your reputation somewhat. But I just feel as though you are feeling quite down when it comes to both relationships and your future direction in life. However, do bear in mind that this is only, this is a short-term cycle, so it's not like a solar eclipse that's going to last for 6 months. This is only a 2-week to 4-week cycle. So I think the key message here so far is close out what isn't working. So definitely there's issues here that, cycles closing out when it comes to relationships and career, but there's a new cycle starting when it comes to home and family. So that's, I think, where your focus needs to be, is on new cycles, because this is the new moon. But we'll find out more when I do the conversions. So I'll pause for a minute and I'll be back in a sec. Welcome back. So I've done your geomantic conversions, which means that we can now get more in depth into your reading. So let's start with the new moon itself. Now for you, this happens in Cancer. So this is your second house, which is the house of value, self-worth and possessions, but particularly earned income. So already we have this figure here of Venus in Taurus, which is a missio. Now a missio is, generally speaking, transient. So it's the physical world. This is the 3D world where things kind of are born and then die. So it's kind of highlighting for you this idea of nothing is permanent when it comes to the physical world, including possessions and so on. And it does seem as though on some level you have potentially had a disappointment or a loss when it comes to either your job, career, or to do with a significant relationship. And it may have cost you money. It may have resulted in some kind of financial loss. However, with a new moon starting here in your second house, there is a fresh start to be had. And it's interesting because this particular new moon happens, as I said, just a couple of days before we start the 888 portal. So the gate will open around about the 27th of July, so about a week after this new moon, and then we'll peak at around the 8th of August. So I do feel as though you'll start to feel your strength and your hope coming back as we kind of move into that energy, which is going to be more in tune with your kind of airy energy. You know, this is more kind of fiery type of energy, whereas the water energy that we've been in probably hasn't suited you so well. So that's something to say, first of all. The second thing is that we've got this reflected in your 6th house. So, you know, if you have perhaps lost your job as a result of COVID-19, or, you know, the economic impact thereof, then things are looking up for you here. We've got Letitia in your 6th house of work, and this is really joyful, enthusiastic, upbeat energy. So if your health's been poor, it's definitely on the up. Circumstances around work are going to improve. So if you've had problems with a colleague or a boss, things will definitely improve here. And you know, so this is work relations, but it's also excuse me, health, and it's day-to-day environment. So, you know, things are kind of looking up on the work front. And then when it comes to other people, it looks as though there's more support coming your way too. So, you know, if you felt that a colleague or a boss hasn't been particularly supportive, perhaps this is the relationship that we are keying into here, then I do think that things are going to improve for you. There's unexpected help kind of coming your way with Fortuna Mine in your 8th house. I think also asking for help or support is important, but this definitely indicates that you'll get it. And this is also the outcome of your reading. So I think it's really about saying that in order to move on, to have a fresh start after disappointments, you know, there needs to be, first of all, a desire to move on, this openness to fresh starts, number one. And number two, that we also sometimes have to ask for help. And the help is there if we need it. So that's a really good thing to know. Yes, we've got cards here repeated in your 3rd house. So this may have something to do with communication like a communication breakdown of some kind, or possibly that you're not able to commute into work, which may have led to this, you know, if this is a work situation or the ending of a partnership in business, then it may have had something to do with, you know, restrictions in terms of movement, or a disagreement of some kind that sort of led to a cutting off or you know, of contact. That's what I kind of feel here. But you do have support from lovers and children, and from people that that perhaps you know through a hobby or something enjoyable that you kind of do, because we've got Fortuna Minor again in your 5th house. So we've got it in your 8th house, your 5th house, and we've got it also as the outcome of your reading. So if you are in need of some kind of either support, financial assistance, or just general you know, kind of knowing that the people have got your back, then I think, you know, this is saying that those are there. You know, when it comes to children, so perhaps this may be why there's a new start for you in family. And then when it comes to, you know, to other people, and again, this may be why we've got this new start here in the 11th house of friends and social networking. But just from an astrological point of view, if I take a step back, the Sun and the Moon will be making an opposition to Saturn in Capricorn. Now, this energy was already active from the last lunar eclipse that we had, which may be why you are still closing out something from that cycle. This was quite heavy energy. There was a lot of shadow work that had to be kind of brought up and sort of processed and let go of. So this is probably just the residue from that particular event. But you know, Saturn here is asking you to balance out. There's a kind of a karmic balancing happening, and I feel that this is reflected also in the Sabian symbol for this particular new moon, which is a Greek muse, which is weighing up newly born twins on golden scales. So Saturn is interestingly exalted in the sign of Libra, which is of course the scales. So this is all about karmic justice. So it could be that at this time you are getting your just desserts. So if you have incurred loss as a result of the breakdown of some kind of partnership, then this will be coming back to you now in the form of a gain. So swings and roundabouts, basically. So that's good news. The other good news is that Jupiter is moving towards a sextile with Neptune. Now, Neptune for you falls here in your in the house where you've suffered a disappointment. So you know what they say, sometimes rejection is God's protection. So it may be that something hasn't worked out for you in terms of your career because there's something else that wants to come in. And, you know, this could be more to do with your vocation, your kind of sole purpose, your reason for being here, rather than the kind of 9 to 5. So I think maybe what this energy is kind of saying is to consider any temporary setbacks or disappointments as actually just clearing out things that shouldn't be there, that are not serving you, because better things are coming in, and that these things have less to do with the external world, the 3D, and they have more to do with your soul purpose, the reason why you're here, to do with happiness, you know, all those kind of internal types of dynamics. Something that I think, you know, you've probably started to become aware of during Venus retrograde, particularly when she was making those squares to Neptune, which she will again on the same day, in fact, that we have this Neptune sextile. So Jupiter will be here in your 8th house, so that's probably why there's some gains to be had when it comes to shared resources. So this is kind of clubbing together. It is joint efforts. It's also things like bank loans, grants, tax breaks, that kind of thing, as well as advice from professionals, and inheritances and divorce settlements. So you know, it can be some kind of settlement after the breaking down of a contract. But Venus obviously is sitting here in your 1st house. So I kind of feel as though some of this unhappiness that you are perhaps experiencing is more to do with a perspective of the way that you are viewing something than the actual event. Because Venus, when it squares Neptune, is really about skewed perceptions. It can be about, you know, either being a little bit delusional. It can sometimes be about unrealistic expectations. It could be about cheating, you know, so this could be why we've got this energy here in the 7th and the 2nd house. But very often it's about, because Neptune is retrograde, so it's more internal energy. So I really feel as though it's more about seeing disappointments as actually lessons, and as sometimes the necessary kind of downswing before we go on the upswing, if that makes sense. So I think from disappointment is going to come a fresh start for you at this new moon, and from that you're going to realize actually how supported you are by the universe and by other people, you know, that friends and family are there for you, and possibly new people coming in as well. So there could be a birth here, new karmic contracts. It could also be a relocation, and sort of a renewal, or a kind of new friendships coming into your circle, or possibly a professional association, you know, some kind of associate through a group that promises to be quite beneficial going forward. So quite a complicated and complex reading, quite nuanced, Gemini. But I think if you see it in relation to the other readings that I've done, there'll probably be some parallels, some, you know, themes running throughout. But yes, do check out my astrological forecast, which I usually do on IGTV, and I think that will often help to make sense of, you know, what's kind of going on in these kinds of readings. So yes, love your feedback. Do leave a comment if this has resonated. I'd love it if you hit the like button if you're enjoying these readings, and yes, all the best for this upcoming new moon cycle, and I'll catch you again in a couple of weeks.